Hello, I'm Mrs Kidd, one of the Deputy Head Teachers at Stretford High School, and I'm going to tell you all about your teacher assessed grades and all the information hopefully you're going to find really useful and give you a bit more security in how the school are going about securing your final grades for you. So let's get started. The first thing to look at is the timeline, the dates. And the first date I want to talk to you about is our current one, where we are working now towards the end of May, building up as much evidence as we can for your teacher assessed grades. This also applies to year 10 for your English exam. So we have another about 8 weeks left, and hopefully your teachers are sharing with you the planning for the next couple of months so that we secure the highest grade we can for you. The next date to look at is the one on the 28th of May. So this is the final point when the teachers will be asked to hand in their assessment grades for each subject. Then the next process is, as a school, we look really carefully at all the grades that have been submitted. We look at it at subject level, but also at individual student level as well, to make sure that they are fair and correct and that we have strong evidence behind them. And I'll be speaking to you in a little bit more detail in a moment about these grades. Then the next date for you to be aware of is that nationally across the whole country, all schools have to get their teacher assessed grades in by the 18th of June. That's our final deadline for all the BTECs and all the GCSEs. Then for you, the next date is Thursday the 12th of August. This is your results day when you get your teacher assessed grades presented to you. This is a little bit earlier than normal, and it's one that the government have brought forward to help many students at post-16 secure their university places. Also, the thing that's still in consultation, so we don't have a date yet, is looking likely that the government are going to offer an autumn exam series. This is still being discussed, but it's another process that I'll be talking to you about in a second. Okay, so let's move on to actually how are we going to be awarding your grades. So let's take a look at this. Teachers have been asked to base their judgments on evidence that they have in front of them. So it's slightly different to last year when we were asked to predict if you were going to sit your exam, what grade you would have come to. And this new system for you, I think, is slightly fairer because it's really very strong evidence that the teachers have. So let's have a little look. Let's take a subject, for example, like maths. Now in maths, it could be other subjects, maybe like science as well. You will be having lots of assessments and internal tests on the topics and modules as you go along. Now this goes right back to year 10 when you would have had some internal assessments, right up to the current time when you had your second set of mocks, and actually right until May where at regular interviews you're going to be assessed on your topics. So for maths and things like science and other subjects, the way that the teachers will come to their teacher assessed grades is very much based on testing and assessments and mock exams on the topics that you've been learning. And they may be using assessment material that the exam board are going to be sending out as well. The main thing to remember that all teachers have been asked to do is look at the content that they are teaching as well. So we've asked teachers to look at how much of the curriculum they've already taught you, and is it enough for you to be able to then go on to post-16 and study that subject if that's one of the ones you wish to do. We also have the freedom to actually make a decision around some of the content that we won't be testing you on. So it could be, for example, in maths, they have decided to focus on specific topics and get the assessments from that. And these might be the assessments that you're stronger on, have had more teacher time being taught them, so it's a fairer system for you. The good thing this year is that the evidence is not 100% absolutely all the curriculum content. Adjustments can be made and should be made on an individual school basis. So hopefully that goes some way to reassuring you. Let's look at another subject that might be assessing slightly differently. Let's look at a subject, for example, like PE, or it could be something like business, where it's a bit of a mixture. You've got clear evidence from your coursework, and this has been built up over year 10 and 11, and you would have had a lot of teacher feedback on how to improve that. They'll also be using assessments that they've been running throughout the course and mock exams to build up your final teacher assessed grade. So this is slightly different to subjects like maths and science, and it could be that it could even be recordings of practicals and things also as part of your evidence that the teachers will be using. And finally, let's look at something again which is slightly different, something like art, and this is purely on a portfolio base of evidence. So this isn't so much on assessments and exams you've been sitting, but the actual physical evidence that we have in your portfolio to guide us on the final grade that you will be getting. So as you can see, it's a mixture. You will be having in some subjects purely based on sort of test assessments, exams. Some of it might be partly exams, assessments and coursework, and some of it purely coursework, depending on the options you have chosen. So let's move on to the next part of the discussion. I'm sure that you and your family will have big questions around the teacher assessed grades. Let's see if we can answer some of these together. I think the main thing I would be asking is it fair? Are we at Stretford High School going to be more generous or more harsh than other schools? And I want to reassure you on this. All schools will be following the same guidance. We've had very, very clear guidance from the DFE based on the thorough and very rigorous consultation across the whole country. So every school has the same guidance that we will be following. I think some of the most important things the guidance are saying is it's slightly different from last year. We're basing the teacher assessed grades on clear evidence in front of us. We are not predicting a grade that you could have got if you would have sat the exam. Now this is much fairer because we actually know your strengths, we know what you're capable of, we have that evidence in front of us. We also have to make sure every school in the country that we are very, very rigorous with the way that we are quality assuring each and every grade that is submitted. This is something that we do every year, but in particular this year, we have to make sure that the grades that we submit are based on really clear evidence. This is to protect you and to protect the teachers as well, to make sure that the judgments we are making are very, very sound, and that we're not marking you down or marking you too high up. The reason that we have to be so careful with these judgments is the DFE will be checking schools across the country to make sure that their system is correct. Now, a school might get flagged up to be inspected if maybe the grades have gone very, very high, for example, and that's out of character from the last 2 or 3 years of the school's results. Equally, it might be that it's what we call like a bit of a spiky profile, where some subjects are scoring very high, some are very low. That would trigger an inspection. So we need to make sure, and we want to anyway, make sure that every grade we give you is the best we can give you. It's based on sound evidence, and it's the grade that we know that if we were inspected we could say absolutely 100%, this is why we've awarded this grade, this is the evidence, it's really clear. Let's move on to something else as well, which I'm sure you'll be thinking about, is your rights to the grades that you're awarded. So what protection do you have? So once you get your results, which like we said is brought slightly early on the 12th of August, you do have the right to appeal. Now part of this appeal process is that you can appeal to the exam board to check whether the school has made an error. Have we put the wrong grade in? That would be the first starting point. If that's not the case, you can also ask the exam board to review the evidence the school has put forward to back up the teacher assessed grade, and they will do that to check whether we have made a sound choice. You have to just remember appeals can go up or down, but I can tell you that last year the vast majority of our students were more than happy with their final grades. You have to trust the judgment of your teachers. They want the very best for you. They would definitely be erring on the side of optimism, based on the evidence they have, and we would have also assessed that at whole school level before the grades go off. The other thing that you could do, and 1 or 2 students did it last year, is if you feel that I think I could have done better, you will have the right to sit that exam in the autumn series. We don't have the date yet, but as soon as we do, we'll be publishing that as well. So let's move on to the next section. Do you think these arrangements are fairer, or do you think they're a little harsh? As a school, we think that the way the consultation has resolved itself is in your very best interest. We strongly believe that your teacher assessed grades are the very best thing that can happen for you. Your teachers know you and will be guiding you, and we want the very best for you. We also think that the national picture is very, very different. Some schools may not have had any time out of school. They might have had far more teacher contact time. So for us to actually move away from a national exam and to be able to control the content that we are actually marking you on is so much fairer for you. We also feel it's less stressful. You have far more control. The evidence that we're gathering is based on your hard work and your determination to do well, and that seems a much, much fairer system than going into a national exam where we can't control the content that you might be actually having to write about, and it might be in areas that you didn't have time to cover because of illness or self-isolation. So we definitely think this is the best arrangements for you. So let's look at the conclusions. What I can say is it's really important that you keep going with your work. Don't stop. We've got until the end of May. We'll be putting the grades in to the very last date that we can, so we get as much time for you to improve and develop your work and your evidence. You have to be a little bit patient. We as national schools are still waiting for details, for example, from the exam boards for when they might be sending out their assessments to help us with these grades. Can I just say something about these assessments that the exam boards are sending out? That would only form part of your assessment. I don't want you to think that we're going to give you another series of mock exams. We're not. You're only from now to the end of May be doing some internal lesson assessments. If these assessments are used by your teachers, it's just to give part of the picture of your final teacher assessed grade. So the one thing you can do to improve your grades: full attendance, hard work, act on your teacher's feedback, and ask for help if you need it. I hope you found that answers some of your questions. If you have any other things that you're worried about, please contact me. I'm more than happy to answer your questions, or Miss Doward, and we will make sure that we get back to you. But we just wanted to reassure you and make sure that you have a full understanding of how we're going to assess you this year. So I'm just going to wish you all the very best. Look after yourself and take care. Bye-bye.